Breaking news, breaking news, breaking news. Tim Norman of Sweetie Pie's fame has been found guilty on all charges, on all counts. Yes. The trifling uncle of Andre Montgomery Jr., who lined up his nephew and had him murked, has finally been found guilty. Many of us have been waiting for this day for 2 years when we found out that Tim was charged. But many of us was also been waiting for 6 years when we found out that Andre Montgomery Jr. was murdered. All praise is due to the Most High. Justice has been served, and Andre Montgomery can rest in peace, and Michelle Griggs has justice for her son. Hello, everyone. Hello. Yes, so I want to say that this news broke locally about 4 hours ago, but nationally, we just got it. So I'm going to read from NBC News. It reads, Sweetie Pie star Tim Norman convicted of arranging nephew's murder. Norman and his nephew, Andre Montgomery, starred in the long-running own reality show about a popular soul food business founded in the St. Louis area by Robbie Montgomery, Norman's mother and Andre's grandmother. St. Louis. A federal jury on Friday convicted a former star of the St. Louis-based reality TV show, Welcome to Sweetie Pies, of arranging the shooting death of his nephew. The jury deliberated for 17 hours over 3 days before reaching its verdict in the murder for hire case against James Tim Norman, the St. Louis Post-Dispatch reported. He was charged with conspiracy to commit murder for hire, and conspiracy to commit mail and wire fraud. Norman and his nephew, Andre Montgomery, both starred in a long-running own reality show about a popular soul food business founded in the St. Louis area by Robbie Montgomery, Norman's mother and Andre's grandmother. Prosecutors are not seeking a death penalty, but Norman could be sentenced to up to life in prison. Sentencing is set for December 15th. Federal prosecutors said Norman, 43, hired two people to kill the 21-year-old Montgomery on March 14, 2016, then tried to cash a $450,000 life insurance policy taken out on his nephew months earlier. Defense attorney Michael Leonard said after the verdict that he and Norman were extremely surprised and disappointed in the outcome of the case. He said they plan to appeal and that Norman continues to be optimistic that he will eventually prevail. Leonard said the testimony during the trial of the two co-conspirators was shown to be extremely non-credible. He said Norman testified well during the trial, noting he was not cross-examined. U.S. Attorney Sailor Fleming said she was very, very pleased with the verdict, but that her office would make no further statements until after the sentencing. During closing arguments, Assistant U.S. Attorney Angie Danis said Norman was the architect of the plan to kill Montgomery. This plan doesn't exist but for Tim Norman's greed, Danis said. Leonard argued in his closing arguments that the murder plot presented by prosecutors was a made-up theory. Prosecutors said Norman paid $10,000 to an exotic dancer, Terica Ellis, to lure his nephew to the site where he was shot and paid $5,000 to Travell Anthony Hill to shoot Montgomery. Ellis and Hill both testified for the prosecution in the case. They have both pleaded guilty to participating in the scheme. In testimony during the trial, Norman said he helped his nephew move to St. Louis about 18 months before he was killed and supported him financially because he was trying to watch out for Montgomery. He said he sought to be a father figure to his brother's son. Former Sweetie Pie's employees and other character witnesses testified that Norman and his nephew had a close relationship. Dennis said all the testimony from the scheme's co-conspirators was backed up in trial by text, call records, and location data. She said Norman created an image of being a mentor and a father figure to all these people, but it's fiction. Yep, sure was. Leonard said during his closing argument that Ellis testified to get a shorter sentence and said Hill admitted he was a heavy drug user and that he was hopped up on drugs that day. Norman testified Tuesday that he took out his life insurance policy on his nephew to give a longtime customer of the family restaurant, Yael Rebbe Yagnam, some business. Yagnam pleaded guilty in July to conspiracy to commit murder for hire and wire fraud in the case. Montgomery left St. Louis after at least $220,000 in cash, jewelry, and other items were stolen in a June 2015 burglary at Robbie Montgomery's home. Norman told jurors he and his mother hired a private investigator to find and confront his nephew about the robbery, but he had no intention of hurting him. Because, you know why? Because your ass did it, okay? Now we're going to go back in time. We're going to go back in time to that very moment when Andre was accused. And when Andre was accused and he kept saying, I didn't do it. And he told his grandmother that Tim got people watching me. She wasn't concerned. He only came there to take that lie detector test for a second time. And it cost him his life. This man should still be here. His murder was not an act of God. It was an act of the devil. What I learned in this situation is be careful who you get close to. This man, Tim Norman, is the devil in hell, personified on the face of the earth. And for me, as a black woman, I hope he get life without the possibility of parole plus 25 years. Okay? For every life that Montgomery lived, and for the 4 years that we as the public had to wait to find out who exactly put this hit out and who took this boy out. Okay? Yeah, I said it. Life without parole plus 25 years. 21 years that Andre lived his life, and 4 years that we had to wait to find out that Tim Norman was the one that executed this plan. I keeps it real. I don't give a... I ain't like those other people. Finally, we know. And finally, he can rest. And I'm speaking of Andre. And his mother can rest. And I'm going to tell you something. Miss Robbie Montgomery, I don't believe her business is really going to do good after this. I believe after this, I really think that people aren't going to really patronize anymore because they're going to realize that she didn't care. She didn't care. And that's really sad. And with that being said, I'm just going to sign out. Thank you for listening. Like, share, comment, hit the notification bell to receive future notices on later uploads and lives. And subscribe to my channel, and I'll be back later. Take care and have a good rest of the day and enjoy your weekend.